one direct or two and there. Espresso. Espresso. And so that request for change to Plan B shall not.
Okay, good morning, Dr. David. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Iziwa Kunobi. Good morning, Dr. Caleb. You joined us very early. Thank you so much. You can also share with your network for people to join in. Good morning, Dr. Asunduwa Kwada Chagwa. You're welcome. You're welcome, Dr. Asumta. Welcome, Dr. Olamide.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning. You're welcome. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're still taking introductions. So if you're joining us on this call, kindly just drop your name in the chat box and where you are chatting with us from. I promise you this session is going to be very engaging as you're going to be going back home or going back to your various places with something that would help you write better grant proposals. So without wasting too much of our time, I would like to introduce our guest speaker. Yes, Dr. David. If you don't mind, please share your video with us so that we can connect more with you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to share the agenda with everyone so that we can have an idea of what we'll be taking you through. So as I said earlier, we're going to have introductions now, and I would introduce you to our guest speaker who is going to be talking to us on mastering the act of grant writing, how to secure funding for innovative animal and public health research. I believe by now we all want to know how to write something that will fetch us soft money, something that can help us boost our research career as early career researchers and even people in the academics. And even if you have an office where you want to write more to get funding for your innovations, and these fundings can help to fund projects and even pay some people's salary. I won't be doing this session alone. I'll have Dr. Ezewan Konobi handling the participatory discussion session for the question and answers, and Dr. Bala Mohammed is going to wrap it up for us by giving us announcements and even vote of thanks. So thank you. If you're just joining us, don't forget to introduce yourself in the chat box and let's get to know you. So who is Dr. David Akpan? Dr. David Akpan is a seasoned social epidemiologist and development expert with 18 years experience, and he has accomplishments in multi-country program management, project management, and business development. His specialty is in HIV prevention, care support, social and health care system, strengthening orphans and vulnerable children. He's also very much interested in sexual and child protection programming, gender-based violence and prevention. He's also competent in digital health and health governance, financing. Maybe that is why he's able to dive smoothly in this grant writing. I won't complete this introduction without mentioning that he holds a Doctor of Philosophy and Masters in Public Health degree from LGS University, Hawaii, and University of Roehampton, London, respectively. He's an Associate Project Management Professional, and he has a badge by the Association for Project Management. He's a current holder and recipient of Mark Michel Global Award on Leadership and Innovation in Digital Health, awarded by the Global Digital Health Network. So thank you so much, Dr. David, for allowing us to share in your wealth of knowledge. You're welcome once again. So I don't know if you want me to share my screen for you or you would share it yourself. Thank you.
I think I'm disabled this other way. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you would share your screen.
Up from that end to share the screen.
Okay, I will share it for you now. Can everyone confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, ma.
Okay, thank you. So
I'll put it on slide.
okay, so over to you, Dr. Akpan.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm not kind of like slacking on internet because sometimes audible enough. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Good morning. Depending on where we are, it could be maybe a different time zone. We speak to this group and different professionals in the room to make a presentation on mastering, the art of grant writing. So I have to, as part of that, reason being that I don't think within one session you'll be able to ask what you are going to really listen or hear from me today. It's going to be those very, preambles, but not necessarily preamble, but in terms of achieving an efficient grant writing, no matter what you get or who you intend to apply to. So basically, just those preliminary guide to help you, get things going. So next slide. Let's Yes, please. Okay, so one of the things maybe perhaps we go into before going into this slide is that just to give confidence to those listening and maybe perhaps maybe not included in the profile is that as 10 years plus, I had successful grants, right, in huge millions in their 100 unsuccessful one. So just to set that pace that not all grants are successful. I'm sure from our session today, you will know areas that could make your grants successful and other areas that could, contribute to grants not being is to understand what are grants. But there are key things that needs to be known. So a grant is actually a finance ideas. So the key word is that ideas has to be. And people most likely, a lot of people have ideas, but could be an idea. And then another one is that it could finance projects, right? And projects are basically initiatives. And excellent. Initiative that are created to solve issues or so that's what money is being provided for, or some form of grant. Of this, there's some benefits that whoever is issuing the grants will the public benefits, or is also looking at what we regard in even within that context as social benefits, even to the person granting. So there are donors who will most likely, finance a brand. There are donors who just want to finance because they want to contribute to a social agenda. So it's important to understand interests before you go into responding to any application. That's also important because I'm sure you could see that vision, their mission, their strategies, for a period, and that gives you an idea of what is of interest to them. It's very important. The other, some recovery initiative or innovative research. What innovative research comes very be interested in research grants. So specifically, we'll be looking at what is that unique you're going to bring into, either any a striking evidence that supports, in a set of program decision. So that is the way to that when also writing research grants in that aspect. And I also made to provide support to social programs on well-being and human, the human being and either community development and their likes. It's important to are not repairable, but definitely it's accountable in the long term. Reason being that why people who are successful in their first grants donor, right, emphasize on might assume that I'm not most like provide accountability for that fund that was issued at. Is that globally there are some connections between several donors in terms of supported previously. So your work you had been able to do in a previous award will speak for you in subsequent grant opportunities. And that's the form of accountability. So which means you need to make sure that you're using your grants. It is easier for a donor to support an organization that already had demonstrated accountability of previous award than to support an organization who wasn't the fact that if they had been in existence for long and also had claimed that they had implemented a couple of grants, and yet your new request or subsequent requests, and then it becomes an issue of concern. So yes, accountability grant development process. Yeah, the next slide. So why are grants issued? And it's important to know this. Why you want to seek for funds somewhere, and it's not in this 4 categories. Raise that up, we'll talk about it. But generally, grants that have been issued over a couple of is around these 4 areas. So you have grants are issued to solve a problem. So there is one very health, environmental issues, name it, but it has to really tackle a problem, and that is why one of the primary or the key components of a grant writing around background, some people call it situational analysis. If that does not capture contextually what the problem is, then you might most likely your grant or your donor that there is a problem to be solved or there is a problem to be financed, then every other thing you write after has not been built on a solid foundation of a proper contextual problem description. So yes, one of the reasons grants are issued is to... Second reason why grants are issued is to address an emergency. And that could be a sort of emergency. In this case, there could be a public health outbreak. There could be... And as at that time, I mean, whenever that happened, I mean, all of us... So you see a lot of people who are very established bilateral organizations, you know, looking for a way agency can be resolved. So it's also an opportunity. It's important within that time. That's why sometimes the structure of that grant, an emergency response grant, is actually... we talk about the two types of grants. In that sense, what they just need is your understanding of the emergency and how ease of the issues or whatever to making that emergency either be in very ample time. So yes, another ways why grants are issued are actually for an emergency. Yeah, is this applicable to everyone? I'm getting a comment that I'm not loud enough.
Your network has been shaky.
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay, Dr. David. Okay, I think
Yes, can you?
Okay, Dr. David.
Yeah, joining with a different device. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Clear now, isn't it?
Yes, I can think. I think it's better now.
Oh, excellent. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Though we're joining for the first time now because of network. I'm just joining. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Where did people not get me? The previous slide? Just want to be sure, get that connection.
No, sir, you can continue. We can hear. You can continue from here.
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, so I will talk. We stop at addressing emergency. Excellent. Okay. I did talk about, yes, grants are issued to address emergency, and it's being able to describe appropriately your understanding of that emergency. Because you might say, yes, we're experiencing COVID. Question is that how does that affect you? How does it affect other people? What sector is being affected? What is the implication of that? So you need to demonstrate that understanding of solution that you bring in that will really address the problem that you're already putting forward. So those convincing way of describing your understanding of the situation, is what is attractive. Then the third reasons why grants are issued is to, support innovative new thinking, right? These sometimes become very difficult, and you have fewer providing fund for innovations. And that's why sometimes you see some donors say, yeah, we have startup grants. That means they're ready. You hear other donors, yes, we're interested in innovation, but we won't want to finance something that is just birthing. That has been scaled, but perhaps you have some other innovations you want to add up to that particular scale up to. So how do you work around this? So depending on the type of donor and what the donor had put forward, if you find a donor that really look at startups, right, something new, you need to really go extra mile to convince that what your ideas or the ideas you're bringing forward are actually going to work, because the risks involved in financing such ideas is the fact that the donor might assume that it might just be a waste of fund, right? And there won't be any demonstrable evidence that will work. So which to support with a lot of reasons or evidence that shows that it's always important to mention how either your new innovation is supporting current, maybe existing work that has been going on, and or maybe building on existing work where the gaps are, you're bringing in something new. That really kind of make it easier to. But if it's kind of a donor who most likely don't want to support startup, they want to see, I think that's on the don't want to repeat funding the same thing for many years. They want to see what is different, right? So you don't, and that's why it's not allowable to repeat proposals submitted, on a previous grant, on a new grant, even though it's going to be two different donors. You need to really define what you're bringing on board within the context of what is important to that donor, right? So that helps, identify what is innovative in your submission. Maybe I've touched that in passing when we're talking about the third one, is scaling existing ideas. So this advancing good practice, good ideas, good projects, or advancing best practice. Where something had been done maybe in I'll use Nigerian. And it's important that, you look at what you had seen rewarding to, provide support to scale it to more states. And you must give rationale and justification why that scaling needs to. Things they do not look for in donors that are granting scale-up projects is that scale up. And sometimes people write this kind of grants you might have had sufficient capacity to manage or deliver on a small scale. And then now you want to go big, you want to do it big, and you are not able to describe appropriately the capacity you've grown, that fits into that large scale. If that is not captured, it leaves the donor with, some concern about, why they would want to, why we don't want to fund you, because they don't have any clarity on what risks what capacity you will have, right? So it's what they call grant risks. They don't know who want to really feel justified about it. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so what's the purpose of grant writing? All what we have said here. So grant writing is to convince an organization or person to fund your proposal. So you see, even while describing why a grant is issued, I try to give those reasons, those convictions across board. And you will, if you listen to me keenly, none of them looks like similar. I took out my time to state those convincing points. Understand your donor, you need to understand the type of grant, you need to understand what is the direction for the donor for you to appropriately write that convincing proposal. If your proposal is not convinced, possibly be granted because you wouldn't be given the opportunity to explain your proposal. So it is what really speak for you in your absence. So you must follow all of the rigor around thing. And when they get to read from when I talked about, the problem in itself, how you describe the issue, and then stating what innovative ideas you're bringing, and what is going, all of that needs to go through clarity and very convincing that yes, it's worth being financed. So it's for you to do a proper grant writing, you need to take out time to research before you begin writing, because that's the way to demonstrate how efficient and how organized you will be. So a proposal that is not efficiently planned or thought through, or not so much evidence has been put into it, there's what we call administrative check in every grant or proposal review. So these are things that perhaps wouldn't cross the first administrative check, not even talking about the technical review. So it's important to make sure that you have time for every proposal you need to respond to and research appropriately. We're going to discuss that as we moved on into describing the process. Next slide. Okay, depending on the device you're using, it might look tiny, but this is talking about the type of grant. So you have the solicited and unsolicited, right? The solicited grants, in summary, it's what the donor had actually put out there requesting for people to respond, and they come in different types. You have web request for a proposal, request for code, request for application. In recent time, we've had donor funding opportunity. So they change all of those names. So, but what is important to note is that these are all solicitation out there. We're seeking for organizations or group of individuals who have certain requirements, who've met certain requirements to respond to this. That falls under. One of the things you need to understand with solicited proposal is that the requirements are being defined. And for you to respond to a solicited proposal, you must have met 100% of. There is no room for, we are up to 80, we are 90, let's give it a try. That already defines what we call an unsuccessful proposal. So you must have met 100% of those defined requirements, right? Or even go beyond. Now, there are situations where you may not have met the 100%, but there are other ways and other things to do to really put up, that what will different things to meet all of the requirements. We'll look at that as we moved on. Now, the unsolicited proposals are basically the ones that it comes out of either some discussions from a meeting or an interest you found they do not talk about, and just very open, and they don't necessarily bring it out in a very formal way. And it could also be you thinking of an issue and trying to, find solutions for that issue, but you need some form of funding to drive that. And then you sit back and you draft your proposal and then seek for who will be interested to finance. Now, what is important with this kind of proposal is that you need to first of all establish who is interested in your proposal. So you need to run away from the idea of like, oh, I have this proposal I need to send to 100 or 10 of organizations. If there is not something of interest to them, then you already had, that frustration of that you might not get a reply. So we call it pulse check. You must check the pulse of different organizations, donors, whether what you are having in mind, ideating, actually is within an area of interest, with them. And then that could move forward to whether that should be, considered for a detailed proposal. In this kind of proposal, you don't submit a full proposal. There are other processes that needs to happen before you even tender or put in a full proposal. Some donors will tell you, first of all, let's see your concept notes. If the concept note sounds very brilliant, convincing, again, then they can ask for a full proposal. So those are, and even before a concept note, there are other strategies that need to, it could even be through a strategy engagement, it could even be through a meeting and advocacy. All of that needs to happen before you begin to think of putting down this proposal. So the mistakes people have with unsolicited proposals, that they feel that I have a proposal, I can send it to take emails of different organizations, throw it across, and just feel like anybody were going to grab it, and then come back to you. Yeah, some successful moves have happened, but I don't think you will have a lot of organizations who will want to take that very seriously and then move on with coming back to you. But because generally the point is that you might have several organizations who perhaps are not considering that to be a priority. So you need to, first of all, do your work very well to identify who might be interested or who is really seeing this to be a problem. I have good examples about this, and some organizations who perhaps if you narrow down to certain things and you're able to even share that idea with them, you're like, oh, we've been looking for someone who is able to, provide this kind of solution, and then that could move into proper writing and all of that. And that's where, in fact, many organizations that successfully achieve this kind of securing this kind of grant, because it's less competitive, and to an extent is more reliable if you do all the right thing. You're sure of the award. But what you need to what also becomes the other side of it is that you have to be patient along the process, because the donors that perhaps respond to unsolicited proposal may not have this finance ready. So they begin to think of how do they reallocate fund, and then come back to you and finance your work. And of course, sometimes they come with, reducing what your expectation looks like, your budgets and all of that, and put you in a very lean space to still do. Funding might be very small. And majorly, again, if you're looking for big grants, you might not get it from unsolicited proposal. Yeah, next slide. All right, very important. We're getting close to the very key things that I hope others actually sound interesting, but these are important. Now, the first one is that these important decisions in grant writing, making a go or no go. What this means is that not all grants should be applied for by an organization or individual. And that's very important. Not all grants. So you're not necessarily like you see 10 opportunities, you're like, yeah, we need to go for it. Let's give it a try. There's nothing in grant writing that is called try, that is seen to be trial. It must be something that meets the requirements, you have the capacity, you meet the evaluation criteria, you're very sure you have convincing idea, put in the resources to respond to it. So nothing like trial. In fact, by the time you put yourself in that space of saying, let's give it a try, you've already successful. So that's why the go, no-go decision is important. Now, with go, no-go decision, it's all about reviewing the opportunity, reviewing the organization, reviewing all of the requirements. Them, and we'll review all of them. Now, reviewing your requirements, reviewing the requirement, priority and all of that, does it necessarily meet, or you have the capacity to deliver on that? Do you have, even with all of that, do you have the time to put in a quality submission, right? And if you review all of this and then you can't check all of the required boxes. There's what so many organizations use as standard guide, but primarily it's looking at capacity. You consider time is actually, you had the capacity, you look at your experience in that field, the most convincing ideas, and then you have the time to, put it into the planning and the writing work and the packaging. If you might want to review your decision to either go for that grant. So a go, no go decision is very important. Now, what this helps you to do is helping you to channel most appropriate, right? So because every given is a reflection of how prepared you were and how much work has been put into that submission. So if you are just doing anything that is in a hurry, the donor is going to see that, because writing to an extent has a way of showing whether the person did a thorough job or really did the best of job, to convince the individual. And of course, it's not about the best of English, the best of semantics, but it's the putting out what is understandable to different persons and what is convincing to the group that is going to be looking at your proposal. So that's very important. The other thing is that for solicited proposal, adhering to guideline is very important. So you see sometimes the donor will give you a template and people just like, oh yeah, not necessarily following this template might be important. In fact, there are moments where you are given a template and they're even giving you word counts. And you say, no, how do we squeeze all our idea into 500 words? That's how brief your donor will feel that you want to see that idea, that whether you can convincingly put your idea in 500 words. And it's one of the, what we call it's part of the administrative checks I mentioned earlier. So if you keep crossing those instructions, the simple understanding of that donor is that you will not be adhering to even the grants or the award requirements. Because if at the point of application you were not adhering to it, then how will you be adhering to all the requirements when you've been awarded? So there are simple things, but sometimes it reads different meaning, right? So avoid those and just stay with the guideline. And ideas, putting all of the work, but by the time you don't adhere to all of the guidelines that have been put forward, then it's very likely you might be disqualified from that submission, even with the quality proposal that you're putting. I hope we're doing better now with audio. Just checking.
No, sir, it is season, sir. It's season.
Okay, we
The
were
audit
doing
season?
better. We were doing better, then you went off
Yes,
for a minute.
yes, really.
Okay, a minute ago.
Yes.
Before you ask, it went off a little bit.
Oh, okay. No, but you heard my explanation on the second point, adhering to guideline.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, that was just it. I was just asking for next slide. Network is like I would struggle it out. Okay, now this is one slide that comes with several, and doing this in a very short time, I will try, because in one full day or two, that's what we use to demonstrate this. And I try to simplify everything that you need to know about grant writing process into this chart, but it's a lot. In fact, we can talk about this practically for 5 days and we're still not unpacked it, but I will try. So if you can, I believe network will allow us, but please, at the end time I kind of had that break off, let me know. Okay. So there's a proactive and a reactive way of proposal development or grants writing, as we may describe it. Now, the reactive way is that you tend to wait until you see an opportunity and it's been advertised or somebody mentioned it to you, and you just sit back, we need to respond to it. You assemble a team, or you get your laptop open, put yourself together, everybody just bring ideas, let's start responding, and you start writing. Fantastic. Maybe you might be lucky at the end of the day, you might be awarded, but in many instances, your win rate will be very low because every reactive proposal writing is actually seen, depending on the time you have, it's seen in the quality of your submission. But a proactive grant writing process puts you on the preparatory scale ahead of when opportunities will come. And what this means is that it starts from somewhere, right? Before you go to even sitting back to write the grant. Now, if you see the box above, we talked about understanding the problem again. Remember when we talked about why are grants funded, right, or issued? So understanding the problem is very important. So it starts from that point. So usually I tell organizations or individuals, if you're interested in grant writing, take out a time, not even when the grants or any opportunity is there for you to write anything, take out time to do your evidence gathering. So you identify an issue, a public health issue, a health issue, environmental health issue, animal health issue, whatever it could be something you feel requires some form of, solution or some form of intervention. Take out your time to gather evidence. In evidence gathering, it's not necessarily about go and conduct a research, a large-scale research. No, there are different ways of doing evidence gathering. Maybe not the session today, but what that means is that gather substantive evidence, importantly, that align to the context. So when we say context defines the place, the location, the people, and the environment. So, which means that if you spend time, shuffling the net to get, secondary evidence, and you want to use that to demonstrate your understanding of the problem, you might most likely not demonstrate your understanding of the context of the problem. So those are two different things. And with some donors who have organized system, they do what they call plagiarism check. So there are a good number of them. They do a plagiarism check, and from all the reviews of the ones I've worked with, your plagiarism score cannot exceed 10%. And that's part of administrative check. So which means that if your content is so heavy on secondary evidence on the net, you are subjecting your proposal to an administrative, thorough administrative check. And of course, it might not pass administrative check. The 10% benchmark. So you see why it's important to really do the thorough job. And so that's on that part. Now, when you gather the evidence, from the evidence, you could gather a lot of evidence that shows several things, right? And then you sit back and like, what is the priority that needs to be taken forward? What are the main things from all of this evidence that really needs to be taken forward? And then once that is established, it goes through all of those skills that you're seeing there, moving and reviewing what opportunity exists for us to really pull down, we begin the ideations and go through, the process of who is interested, which donor has advertised what, which subject matter experts can I bring in to review my submission of, and there's also a restriction around that. You need to bring subject matter experts that you have full trust in terms of your content, that will not, debauch your content when they want to write a proposal that involve another organization or another partner. They sign what they call a non-disclosure agreement, which means for me to give you access to this document, you have solemnly agreed and swear that you will not disclose our content and intellectual ideas, and that's it. That's important. So once all of that goes through, go through all of the writing, we'll do a quality check, and then you make sure you keep to the timely submission. That's if it's the solicited. Even though it's not unsolicited, if you had agreed to the donor, you will get back to the donor at a certain time. Please try as much as possible to meet that time. Now, like I said, I can't. There's one after the other. This is things we do in detail, almost in 5 days, taking each steps. But what this means, if you take your time to review this, is that you have some form of efficiency, you have some form of effectiveness to achieve. And grant writing is an iterative process. So it's like going through a cycle. Right? Let's get on it, and it goes through that. And because for you to get funds from somebody or the person to be convinced to give you money, you must show that you are much ready for that, because to help you out with some fund. Some people will ask you for several questions or reasons, depending on how convinced they are. Not about talking to somebody who doesn't even know you or hasn't met you, to give you funding. Then you need to see that conviction in your writing. You need to see that conviction in the way and what you had put into the writing. So that's important. And of course, the steps and the process, everything from the background to the final work or budget, everything must speak to each other. Nothing misses in terms of gaps, or this one doesn't align to this. And that's why the planning, the process, keeping to the process is very important. We might not have that time, but I feel if there are subsequent sections to break that down, then we can think through it. But that's what it means. This is really where you learn the mastery in itself. That's why I said today it's about just learning, but mastering will continue from how do we unpack this particular framework in we could gradually apply those learnings, and then if it becomes successful as you go on, then you might be going towards the mastery level. But this describes some of the processes that you need to follow. Yeah, next slide. Towards, I think maybe this might be the last slide. Why some grant proposals are not successful. One is applying for the wrong grant. If you remember what I said about the go, no go, not every grant should be applied for, right? So you need to know which grants do you really want to apply for. Now, what helps you check this is that, do you have the capacity? Is it within your strongest area? Is it, do you have the right team for the time to make those quality submissions? So you need to know that if you're just writing for any grant at those times, so you need to know which grant is right, which grant is most appropriate for you. Then the second one is that failure to follow guidelines. I think I've talked about that. That's very important. Then number 3, which it's also very very, very seen in a lot of proposals is the weak approach. Part of the previous slide I talked about. So if the reviewer is unable to tie your problem to intervention, to your monitoring plan, to your budget, then you have project management approach or ideation in your submission. So when once they see those disconnects, then it means that you're. And then if there are also innovative ideas that you're throwing in that sounds assumptive, in putting evidence or clarity to why those approaches are required, then you might also be of submitting a proposal with a weak approach. And then you talk about the weak project HR alignment. A lot of people don't know that proposals are not content, quality content. They are funded also based on the individual put forward to implement that proposed project. So you can have quality proposal, but when you do not have the right profile of people that meets that submission, then your proposal might also be most likely declined, because they don't just want to trust your implementation. They want to trust the people that are put forward as the human resource that will work on that proposal, have the right profile to do that. That's why sometimes when we talk about writing proposal, we take our time to do HR profiling, make sure that every on the project have all of the competencies and the skills and the experience that matches the innovation that you are putting down. Matching. Is this person having X? Is this person? So where you fill those gaps, get someone who is able to push forward. And then sometimes even you might most likely be putting forward people with the right qualifications and all of that, but the experience, the exposure they have, and people with even prior experience working with that donor gives the donor some form of ease that yes, we are convinced, about this proposal. The non-competitive or weak budget submission. Important. So don't ever submit the budget that the cost is not reasonable. There's what they call reasonable budgeting. So people just get to do budgets when the way it works is that budgets are the last thing, or we usually keep it as the last thing to work on, and then sometimes we transfer it and give it to a finance person, and then the finance person will just be doing the budget based on what they know between the budget and the technical submission. So that alone is a problem. That's what they call the weak budget. So the second one is that the budget might even be coming with costs that are not reasonable, by all the. You are most likely overcosting or undercosting. It can be either way. So you have to make sure that you stay reasonable with your budgeting. The sixth is the non-alignment with donors' priority. I think I mentioned that in passing. You need to always review the intentions of the donor. Sometimes they are well communicated either in the proposal or communicated in some other publications or in some other. For instance, I give you an instance of if you're applying for let's say USAID funding, in any other instance, they have what they call the country operational plan. If you're doing anything in Nigeria and you want to do apply for a USAID fund, the country operational plan for that year is what you need to look at. What is USAID priority for the period? And they will always appreciate the fact that they see that you're able to distill their document and you're referencing it and you're aligning that within your work. And there are other donors who does that. And there are donors also who had taken a decision to take a priority over one thing. So if you're asking funding in a different thing other than what they had prioritized for that period, then it might be difficult for them to respond to you. And that applies to opportunities. Then poor writing and presentation. I can't overemphasize this. Like I said, it's not about poor writing doesn't describe the fluent the fluency or the fluent way of writing in English and all of that, case may be, or in fact, we've been, made to know that, he's not doing and all of that. But sometimes it matters also. But what is communicate clearly in simple terms, because your reviewers technicality of your whatever you're bringing in. So simple way or simple means of communicating your ideas relates to, the disconnection between one paragraph to the other. And one is expecting to see that there will be a follow-on thought, and then you just jump to something else. So that connection also is what could be a problem. So that's why it's important that you do your review, read your proposal, even at giving it to an external person, I've talked about it, to really review that, to see whether you're really connecting the dots and linking things up where is appropriate. So it has to be something that, demonstrate that flow of thoughts. That's it. So once there's that disconnect in the thinking, then it becomes a problem. In some very serious proposal, that's why they ask for what they call the logic model, the theory of change, because they want to see the connections in the thoughts, in the ideas, leading to what you want to do. And then presentation, very important. And I think I've talked about some other groups who've done a similar thing, to say you might have quality submission, but if you submit it in a very, we usually describe as an unprofessional way. For instance, you just do your document and leave it like that. It doesn't gather any graphical days, no proper alignment. The font sizes are varied from paragraph, from page to page, the alignment. So if you do it that way without packaging it well and presenting it well, it tells the donor that perhaps you're not very, very serious about getting the money. So they must see that your absolute preparedness in everything, to make sure that everything ticks the boxes, to the very least of things. So you pay attention to every little of those details. And that's why taking time to plan, to get involved is very important. And then it's what they call generally poor proposal. Of course, this is speaking to your ideas not really, convincing, not really put together, and all of that. So there are parameters that varies from donor to donor, and sometimes they just trash it completely and they don't even look at it. And then you'll talk about intense competition. So even when you do all of the 1 to 8, and you've avoided all of that, and you tick all the boxes and get to make quality submission, competition, intense competition could also be what could make your proposal unsuccessful. Just like I started, by saying that I've had a couple of submissions, successful ones, unsuccessful ones. So it means you will get to that point. Now, this is how to avoid this in grant writing, especially for solicited opportunities, is to do what is described as competitive analysis. And this happens when you're doing what they call another strategy. They talk about intelligent gathering. Who is also interested or is working in the same space as you, or is doing, most likely will be thinking of the same or having the same idea like you have, So, and that having knowledge about your competitors, gives you, some sense of how best you can prepare and how you're going to achieve number 10. That's why I was going there, because some competitors can be your ally and form alliance with you, and that helps you reduce the competition. Those are strategies like we use, we call it dismantle the competitors. Whatever you have this formation, dismantle your competitors' formation. So you can find like instead of, and that's what even most likely several donors appreciate, when they see that you are able to effectively get your strongest competitor to your side, and have an agreement to work together to make a submission. And that submission becomes even far more strong and comes with the right quality. You stand a chance of being successful. Saying you want to go as a single individual or organization, and that you increase the pool of your competitors, and you will do and may have met, you will definitely that strongest competitors, and that might all, who gets it and who does not get it. Or you didn't do the right thing, or you didn't do the have done one extra thing that you did. You didn't. They do not just feel, oh, I think the grant just because of who was put the project director. Those instances are so they won't say that very insignificant. I would just to make sure will grant because they will surely grant. So the reasons why you could have and then unsuccessful proposal, right? I touched 10 when I was explaining 9. Competitors must be brought into your consortium. The choices of your competitors important because it will be competitors as far as they do not influence what you're going to be submitting. So you need to look out for organizations who will be or individuals who will be of added value to you and to your submission. And there's always a trade-off, because some people will always like, oh, I want to be this, I want to. Then those trade-offs will need to happen. And then you can then don't take decisions in your consortium that put you at disadvantage mode, right? You're writing a grant that your technical components is being ceded to your sub-partner, and you are only managing like administrative and a little bit of that, then you simply tell your donor that you do not have the right technical capacity to implement that grant. And for both of you. So you need to always look out for something that helps you balance things out. Yes, so that's it. Thank you, and we can open up to for questions now.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
I have a
please.
question.
Please go ahead.
The last point, that consortium choices / ideas, actually, I'm not conversant with.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for raising that.
Breaking.
Can you hear me?
It has been breaking. Maybe I can hear you now and jot my notes from there.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Yes. So consortium. Okay. So if you're going for, most likely you go for a grant, you can go as an individual. You can, as a single individual, you can also go as a single organization, right? Yeah. That's the most sense. Going with another person or another organization, that's what is called consortium. Did you get that point?
Yeah, it's all right. No, it's breaking. It's all right. Let me not bother much.
It's the next. Is it from my end?
Maybe I changed my position. Came close to the window.
Okay. All right. Questions? Do we have anyone who wants to unmute and ask?
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. We will have agenda for this. So
I don't know whether it's from my side. I can't get your audio well.
Yeah. So can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. So, what I was trying to say is that there is a program, an agenda for this presentation, and it is important that we follow it specifically for our record purposes. The next bit of it is to take comments and questions and then answers. I want to kickstart that session by firstly appreciating our brother and our friend, Dr. David, for finding time to do this presentation for us, given the knowledge that we have about him as a very busy person. And I want to say that the COTOB lecture series is actually becoming more interesting by the day. And I want to also say that this topic is very important for us, because we do know that in this part of the world, there is a huge lack of knowledge on grant writing. Like David said, it's not just about good English. There are some things that go into it that will make grants successful. And we have discovered that other clients are more successful in getting their requests granted than what we have here in this part of the world. So that is why we decided to have this, and Dr. David has done huge justice to that. He has taken us through a number of issues, including the fact that what we have just done now is just a preliminary guide. It is not exhaustive, meaning that at some point we may need to bring him back to give us a more detailed focus on what to do. He has also taken us through areas that will make grants eligible, and the downsides of grant writing, and what we need to do as per understanding the interests and focus of the donors, even as we prepare to write any grant. He has also taken us through some demonstration of that we need to demonstrate accountability of accountability in previous grants, if we ever had any, and then detailed description of capacity of the one that is seeking the grant. All those come into play in making our grant request successful. One part that really interests me most is the issue of important decisions to make before even proceeding on writing for grants, including the making a go or no go decision, adhering to laid down guidelines. And now the very last bit of it is like he left the best for the last. Why grant proposals are not approved. He enlisted a number of factors to us here, meaning that for me, the flip side is if we avoid this, then more likely that our request will be granted. So it is now open for us. We have opportunities to ask questions now, and I believe that Dr. David is available to take all the questions. If there are comments to make, we also want to get those comments. We can also pick questions and comments from the chat box. Maybe just drop your questions and comments in the chat box, and we pick them and put them forward to our speaker, today. So I want to thank all of us for making time to come. I understand that a lot of people were having issues joining because of a network. We'll have had more than the number that we have here, about 40 for now. But it's still okay, I mean, the number that we have here. Thank you so much.
Yes, some questions in chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. David. And I just wanted to also make some comments and request. There are a lot of there are a lot of comments and questions in the chat box, but we will try and summarize it. Dr. Ezama will try and summarize it, while I also make certain requests. Veterinary medicine, or if better put, animal health, public health, and business growth, it's something that funders are looking out for in low and middle income countries like Nigeria. And I think we are also fortunate to have Dr. David as a mentor on this group. For some of us, we've had the opportunity of doing one-on-one with him, not for 1 hour, not for 1 day, but for weeks, closed up in a hotel, fed morning, afternoon, and evening to looking at different aspects. And I think the way he introduces is very key. Fortunately for us, we didn't have so much crowd today. And I'd like to make a request to Dr. David that taking on specific and specific grant focus on public health, imagine and reimagine infectious diseases, but also seeing how we can grow our business. I mean, you did mention that in the second slide, and that is exactly what funders are looking for. And I would like a situation where we can even institute a grant award for about 25 persons amongst us, looking at individual businesses, looking at organizational projects, and looking at community, trying to solve problems in community, looking at issues of infectious diseases and out there outbreak in public health, where we can be handhold through a process that he has enumerated this morning in the lecture. And like what I said, we are just very few. I think about 20. We are about, we're up to 40. Okay, we'll find a way. If you drop us your CV, there are a lot of documents. Even when Dr. David is not available, he has gotten a lot of NGOs that he worked with, and a lot of funders are also on him outside of the country. He happens to be a Nigerian, our brother, and he is also his interest and specialty is focused on what we do. And I think it would be nice that we all start thinking of writing something in the direction. And I will also try and talk to our board of trustees to see how as little as $1,000 we can put up in supporting those proposals that will guide, that will speak to what we already know and we are working on, so that when you win, you also remember that there are many others that will support you. I am saying this because every day this my mentor, I mean, Dr. David, keep telling us, you must apply for this, you must apply for that. And by his grace, a number of things have come out, not only from the grant writing that we are better off today. Now, when you talk about public health, when you talk about One Health, when you talk about community development, you know, some of those things that we do, little things like rabies control, like managing outbreaks, emergency, like he stated, he is grounded, and I've also gotten a lot of information that amongst those who are on call today, we have so many people who understand this. The key problem might just be that we've not been able to put it together in a way that will win us this grant. And I think if we are able to take in, you know, 20, 25 people, and we work with looking for 1,000 to 10,000 pounds together. I mean, dollars together, but pounds. I know Dr. David is very familiar with FCDO, but also a lot of grants coming from Canada and the United States and some other private individual, and hopefully we will get something. So just think about something that you do. Don't, like he has said, think of those big things that another person is doing and you just want to copy. Within what you do, either vet or not vet, there are a lot of things that social sector managers can do in terms of solving problem in the society, solving problem in our community, solving problem within our profession, within our country. You know, employment generation. You know, when you talk about livestock production and then you talk about family livelihood and what have you, these are things that you can put together in one page and then you expand in 100 pages and will win you $1 million, will win you a million pounds, or even the European Union euros, to making sure that you continue carrying out the best, the good work that you do. I would want to stop there, but you know, I'm saying this on behalf of all of us, thanking Dr. David Akpan ahead of time, and then asking that we are likely going to come as a smaller group to actually come with the proposals in different areas in terms of businesses or public health, or even the normal spaying and the rabies vaccination that we all know. And I can guarantee you that if we put it, whether solicited or unsolicited, there are organizations that when they see good things, they will jump at it. But there are also so many solicited ones that we may not be able to do as individual, but when we collaborate from northeast to south, and from southwest to the north central, we are likely going to be able to get it. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Dr. Bala, for that. And I think we'll just go straight to the chat box and pick some of the comments and questions that are, we'll just, so we'll just go straight to the chat box and pick some of the questions and concerns that have been expressed. We have from Dr. Asundua, who reviews grant writing who used to review grant writing as an individual grant writer. I don't understand. Maybe Dr. David, you understand this. Who does the review, maybe, of grant proposals? Maybe that is what Dr. Asundua is trying to express here. Then the next one is Dr. Jadi, who is asking about how best to search for potential grants in one's areas of interest. Then we have, sorry. There is Kuyet Zibwai Gloria, who is asking on how can one source for solicited and research grants. I think those are the major questions that have been asked here so far. Those are the questions that have been asked. So, Dr. David, you can take them. Just 3 questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eze. Okay. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. And thanks, Dr. Bala, for that commitment. Yeah, looking forward to how that works out. All right. So the first question is, who does the grant writing review? I mean, for an...
Sir, we can't hear you anymore.
You can't hear me?
Hey, go ahead, sir.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, all right, okay. Question of who does grant writing review for an individual grant writer? Saying look for a subject matter expert who should be able to do that for you. It's important you source for another person whom is to review your grant proposal. And I use the word trust. Remember when I said other organizations will want to sign what they call a non-disclosure agreement. So you need to do that. The reason is that you had written a very well-structured proposal and not missing anything. But if you have someone who has that other additional experience from an external viewpoint, the person will be able to, either validate what you've done or ask you. Now, that is important because even for bigger organizations that we work for and we write, we have 3 layers of review that happens with the red, we have the amber, and we have the green. That's even for guys like almost every other time. So you have 3 levels of review. So you need to find a way of getting people who are not directly involved in the writing to do the review. If you don't trust the person, reserve to your submission, but you can sign a non-disclosure agreement, and that's it, just to make sure that is formalized. I'm sure that responds to the question. How do you search? Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. How do you search for? I got they're a bit similar.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This group, I think you should register with Fund for NGO. If you type it on Google, you see that. So you can register the apps. If there's a general one, there's a premium one. So the premium one gives you access to different so funds for NGO. So if you Google, it's www.ds4 NGOs and right grant and from different donors. So you should be able to get what you so consistent, guys. The other ones, if you're looking for a USAID fund, which sometimes you have what they call the small grant, 300,000. All of that, you will get it from grants.gov. I'll the link, I'm sure you can put it out. So the one I just mentioned now is G opportunities. Yeah, so those are the other groups, different groups. You didn't get what I shared?
Hi.
Yeah, we didn't get it. Can you tell us website again, sir?
So the first one is funds for
Funds for.
Just dropped it on the charts now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I can see David has dropped the link in the chat box, so you can just take it from there. I think we'll just continue by getting to winding down. But David, before we leave, I have a question for you. And now, one of the requirements is that we must whatever grant we are writing must be in line with the focus of the donor, isn't it? Now, if, for instance, a donor is pro same-sex marriage, and a grant writer is against that, would that affect the eligibility, the possibility of the grant seeker getting that grant, just because he opposes the focus of the donor on the issue of same-sex marriage? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Eze. It's an absolute yes. In fact, anything that is raised, don't go for it. I mean, because they will ask you to sign. There are some forms they will have to send to you to fill, and if you're filling that form and you're filling again, you'll be screened out. Sorry, Dr. Eze, did you get my response?
Yes, it got your response. So, do you have any final words for us, Dr. David, before we call it a day?
Thank you. So my final word is that when you're ready, seriously, because it's a serious business. But I wish all of us the best.
I think Dr. Bala has one or two things to say, then we wrap it up.
Thank you so very much, colleagues, for joining. But first, let me also once again thank Dr. David for his time. We understand how busy you are, and I think we are just lucky catching you in Nigeria this weekend. And I think I will also work hard with this number of people. We've harvested their emails, and we'll also try and get a group form for grant writing, and everyone will have to start writing something down based on the interest, your interest. I think I would suggest two. One, primarily for what you do. Second, we should be in the area of public health and mental health, where you keep improving on it, and then we can now form a small class, get sponsors either from FCDO, DFID, or USAID to ensure that we perfect our skills in the art of grant proposal writing. But it is important that as soon as you drop this call today, you get a small notebook and you start thinking about how one area pet project, so that you start getting all the detailed information like Dr. David has stated. And we can form a group. I would also definitely work hard in getting some resources across so that we can develop those ideas together. And the moment that is also, we'll also try and look around to share links and sites where you keep searching for the grant. And I guess this will be helpful in the nearest future, that you are able to pull out a very nice writing. As we do that, we will also try and get Dr. David back so that we take an area like One Health, like nutrition, like public emergencies in animal health and public health, or like in the ongoing search for antimicrobial resistance fight, to help every individual of us have something that they are writing down and then they are focused on for individuals or for our organization. Thank you, Dr. David, for your time. Thank you, colleagues, for coming through with us. God bless us all. Thank you. Can you please turn your cameras on so that we can have a group photograph? It's quite encouraging. We have about 30 people on the call. Oh, okay, I learned more than 31, or is it 1? Okay, 39. Thank you so very much.
Can we send our numbers?
Sir? No, if you send your email, we're also going to, I will talk to Dr. David to get his permission to share the slides directly with all of us. But also there are a lot of other information that are too bulky that will be beneficial. Some will be linked to some books that we have guided.
Right. We're grateful having you today, really.
Sir?
I say we're so much grateful having you people today on board to improve our capacity. I am from Federal University Lokoja, and this is the first time I attended this lecture. There was a workshop that took place in the Federal University Lokoja here, but the presentation was not elaborate like this one.
Right.
You know, I'm so happy to be part of this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll share more details with you, but also try and get different professionals paid, and those ones we haven't been able to. Dr. David is doing this pro bono, and we know and understand he has done it for organizations for you know, thousands of dollars, thousands of pounds, and hopefully having adopted all of us as his mentors, we'll look at different projects within animal health, within public health, within community development, and issues of environmental and sustainability issues, but also how you can all grow your business using some of these grant allocation. Thank you. Can you see me?
Thank you very much, sir. We are very grateful for this beautiful presentation and topics.
Have you taken the picture?